Hello, hello, and welcome to Speak Your Truth Youth MCR, and welcome to our Black History Talks debate at 8. And today we're going to be talking about the second part of how does intergenerational trauma affect us. I've been away for a week. I wasn't here last week. I was away, and I'm back. So yeah, it's good to be back, and it's good to tackle this subject again for the second week. And this week we're going to have a special guest. Super excited. So in the background you can hear Little Sims playing. It's a big tune, man. Come on now, Little Sims is amazing. So yeah, we've got Little Sims playing. I do not own the rights. If you don't know her, then please check out her music. And we're just gonna wait for Black History Inspires to come into the room and a few others. So yeah, how's your Monday going? What's your truth for today? Wait 1 minute. Oh, I've got a request here. Oh my god. Who's joined? Thank you so much. The support is always welcomed, and it's always, yeah, thank you so much. Let's see. Right, so let me see if I can invite you in again and see if we can start this. Hello, thank you for joining. Don't know where Black History Inspires is though. Having a laugh. Hi Rosita, thank you for joining. We're trying to get you into this live special guest, but I'm not sure what's happening. I wonder if you've got the most up-to-date Instagram. Sometimes that can be an issue. Let me see if I can invite you in, see if that can make a difference. Don't know what's happening here. Oh, it says it unable to join. Don't know what's going on here. Hey, it's Takira, and this is my artist profile. Ah, amazing. Thank you so much.
Hello?
Oh, there we go.
Hi.
Yay.
Good to
Thank
see
you so
you.
much for joining. I thought there was going to be an issue there and you might not be able to join us tonight.
The universe has a way of making it work.
Thank you. The universe certainly does have a way of making it work. Is that your truth for today then? That
It is, yes.
I love it. You look really, really well. And thank you so much for joining, because I know you're super busy and you're doing amazing work out there. And yeah, I think we're waiting for Black History Inspires to get into the room. I know that you're super busy, so you're going to be with us for about 20 minutes to half an hour, and you're going to bestow upon us your knowledge and your wisdom, because we spoke about part 1, intergenerational trauma. I think it was on the 27th of November, and we said we were going to keep the real, I wouldn't call it juicy parts, but the real interesting expert parts that we need to know, we were going to keep it for today. So yes, so everybody in the room, we have Dr. Erica McInnes. If you don't know who Dr. Erica McInnes is, then you need to go onto Google and type in Dr. Erica McInnes, or type in Nubian Wellness or Nubia Wellness, and you can find the work of this phenomenal woman. And I'm going to put all the details towards the end, and I guess we'll have a talk about it as well. Welcome, Black History Inspires, or Encourage Me Coach today.
Thank you. I've just noticed that Dr. Erica McInnes was on. Are we sharing the screen?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just I can't see her from here.
Can you not?
No.
I wonder what's going on.
Is she still on there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you hear us? Oh, I think she might have frozen. We can still see you, but you're frozen.
It could be me.
Look what you've done. No, but you can have up to 4 people in these lives. We've done that before.
I'd prefer that she comes on than me. Can't see Dr. McInnes. That's what I'm saying. The screen's not allowing both of us. Can you share the screen?
I'm trying. Back in the room. Back in the room. don't know what happened there. I think there was a bit of a glitch. I think Instagram was like, oh, 3 people. I don't know if I can handle it.
Dr. Erica,
Hi, good to see you.
it's lovely to see you too. Yes. Right. So I know we haven't got much time.
So we're going to go straight into
So
it.
do you want us to go straight into it?
Sounds
Of
good to me.
course. Yeah, we were going to do a bit of a recap.
Yeah.
That we spoke about on the 27th, and we spoke about intergenerational trauma. We've brought it down to the words IGT. So when we say IGT, we're talking about intergenerational trauma. And do you want me to do the recap, Black History, or are you going to do the recap?
It's up to you if you want to do that, and I'll do the rest. You know, it's up to you.
Amazing. So as a recap, we spoke about the experience of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade having a profound effect on descendants of victims. So trauma, fear, lifetime of indignity, hatred from perpetrators, threat of violence, constant horrors of racism. We also spoke about the effects of that slavery leading to generations of systemic racism, discrimination and inequality that still persists today. As we know, we discussed the fact that enslaved and Black people were used for medical experimentation, and that in itself has created lots of IGT or intergenerational trauma. Just the narrative and the vicarious trauma that comes from that can really affect our families when we talk about ancestral and generational trauma. So things like infectious diseases, vaccination trials, surgical techniques. We spoke about the evidence around hypertension, strokes, diabetes, those type of comorbidities that are increased through trauma. And indeed through what we call adverse childhood experiences, which is something that I deal a lot in as well. And we've got a lovely quote from Black History Inspires that says, tackling intergenerational trauma is about understanding the past and its deep impact on descendants and creating culturally sensitive, effective organisational community and empowerment strategies with appropriate agencies and supporters for healing and change aimed at managing a healthier future. And lastly, despite the immense challenges that we faced, many individuals and communities have indeed thrived, preserving their cultural heritage, building strong communities, and striving for justice and equality, or equity, or liberation.
Yes, yes.
All of
So that is a bit of a recap. And in terms of our role at Speak Your Truth Youth, we're trying to create education, awareness, speaking to young people, but in particular young Black and brown people around the if you want to call it the trauma of racism, of discrimination, of prejudice, and what young people can do to emancipate themselves, to liberate themselves, and like you say, to have a healthier future. So with that as a recap, I'm going to hand over to you, Black History Inspires, to do a bit of an introduction.
Yep. Right. First of all, let's just very quickly just say that clinical psychology can play a crucial role in healing individuals suffering from intergenerational trauma resulting from the transatlantic slave trade. Examples, and I'm sure Dr. McInnes will talk about some of these, not all of them, because it'll take time. But things like trauma-informed therapy can be used to help. Culturally sensitive approach, which is another major area. Intergenerational therapy, psychoeducation and empowerment, supportive therapeutic relationships, and a collaborative care.
I like that.
Now, what I'm going to do is, between us, we can take a question each or something like that. But the first thing I'd like to ask is for Dr. McInnes to tell us something about herself and her, who she is and what she does.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, I'm a clinical psychologist. I got inspired by African psychology, that's applying psychology to the experiences of people of African ancestry. When I first found out about the Association of Black Psychologists and went out there to their conference, must be over 10 years ago now. And really, unless people can actually see the therapy that they're receiving, reflecting their own experiences, people aren't going to go for it. So you're going to find that people are saying that, well, Black people don't stay in therapy or don't go for therapy. But if it's not a model that suits their experiences, or people understand what they've gone through or what they go through, that type of thing, it's really it's not going to be fit for purpose. So one of the things I did is I took a fellowship to America, found out a bit more about African psychology, and then came back and developed some wellness products and also some online courses that people can do. Really to kind of like get people more familiar with the wellness skills that are traditional within our culture, that kept us going through enslavement, kept us going through colonization, and can keep us going through the latest form, because there will always be another form. It's about how do we equip ourselves and how do we recover from our past traumas, learn from them, and kind of like have those skills, so then when we face it in a different form again, be able to cope, so that we don't react and kind of like throw things back at people, become violent. It's about how do we understand the hurt in other people, understand the hurt in ourselves, and then find a way of managing that, so that we don't do things that ultimately hold us back.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much.
Mm.
That was everything. What I just wanted to put a point in is when you spoke about the wellness skills, I can personally attest to the fact that I've taken part in some of your courses, some of your training, some of your containers, some of the activities that you have created and provided. And let me tell you, particularly during the pandemic, during lockdown, it was so, so, so important. I shared it amongst so many different people to say, listen, the stuff that was out there wasn't fit for purpose. But when we did your stuff, it felt, you just felt better. You felt it really, really does work, if that makes sense. And because it resonates with a part of us that, it resonates with that ancestral kind of part of us. So thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Can I mention some of the products that I developed? So one of the things that I developed was the Know Thyself Adinkra
I got
cards.
them. I
Yeah.
use them all the
And
time.
then
They're amazing.
some of the cards, like that one is service and leadership.
Yes.
One of the things is like the principles of Mayat, the ancient Egyptian goddess Mayat. Is about, one of the principles is reciprocity. So I've learned, and I'm quite passionate about sharing my knowledge with other people. It's not about acquiring knowledge just to say that I've got knowledge, or to
Yes.
say that I have more than other people and then use it against people. It's about how do we each skill each other up, so that we're all better equipped. One thing about knowledge is that racism often takes the weakest link. So the more informed you are, the more knowledgeable you are, the more skills you've got at your disposal, the more agile you'll be to be able to navigate and be able to even take yourself out of environments, or even fight in those environments better.
I love that. I love the word agile, because it means that you can move,
Yeah.
in between all the spaces and the places that would do you harm, and you can do that and you can build your own resilience. I love that. Thank you. What we've got a comment here. Hi sis, I'm in the USA. Oh, thank you so much for joining. I'm hoping we get Dr. Stephen Bond from across the pond joining, because he's a fan of your work as well. So yeah, fingers crossed for that.
Okay. Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask is, as succinctly as you can, and I know it's a massive area, but what to you is the role of history in intergenerational trauma?
Well,
Makes sense.
John Henry Clark, one of the great philosophers and thinkers in the field of African psychology, he talks about history is a way that you can tell the time. You can't tell where you are unless you know where you've been. You can't tell who you are unless you know who you were before.
I love
You
that.
can't tell your future unless you know your past, unless you know your present. So history is very important. There's a reason why in history they sometimes hide Black people's history. It's usually confined to a month. We need a month to have knowledge of it, because it isn't there in the curriculum. And the reason why is because your history and knowing the good things about yourself helps to build self-esteem, helps to build
Yes.
self-confidence, self-worth. And these are the things that you're going to need to kind of like be agile and cope with difficult situations, so that it bounces off you, so that you can say, well, you think that about me, you're entitled to think that about me. That doesn't mean I'm going to absorb that and think that about myself, because I already know myself. and knowing thyself is important. So that's why history is very important to our resilience, to being anti-fragile, to being able to duck and dive, and the hill and gully ride that life can be.
I love that. I've written down anti-fragile. Is that a clinical term, or is that something that you
Yeah.
yeah.
There was a book written by Nicholas Taleb that talked about anti-fragile, and he says that what is fragile breaks easily, what is strong resists but breaks eventually, but what is anti-fragile learns from disorder, learns from chaos. It can be agile and malleable. So it's about when you're in difficult situations, what can you learn from it so that when you're faced with those situations again, you've got the tools to cope, or you can pass on those strategies down the generations of your family or to other people as well. So it's really taking the position that sometimes we can't stop people from oppressing us, but what we can do is skill ourselves up that we're better able to withstand those situations and even thrive from those situations.
That is the word, even thrive. And as we always do, I'm going to ask, can we, Nicholas Taller, how do we spell his name?
Taleb, Talab.
Ah, okay.
Taleb.
Right. So we're going to put his
That's
details.
Anti-Fragile is the name of the
Yes.
book. Probably not one of the easiest of books to read, but it's good to kind of get the concept to say that in a world which is full of people who are sometimes underhand, sometimes don't play by the rules, sometimes oppress other people to get a high, or oppress other people because that's their only way of navigating that space. Sometimes it's about developing the skills to cope with those situations.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to be looking into that one. And with the work that I do as well, it's something that I'll be sharing with some of my colleagues who are clinicians. So yeah, that would be amazing. Just
Yeah.
to let you know, I'm not a clinician. I aspire to be. You are my inspiration.
It
So
is.
yeah.
Can I mention another one of my products is the African Centered Wellness Journal,
Yeah.
which has got over 150
Yep.
quotes from people of African ancestry. So journaling and processing, just like keeping a diary, really. But sometimes it's about writing down your wins at the end of the day, or kind of like writing I am statements to affirm who you are. There's
Mhm.
worksheets at the back of it, which are helpful in terms of developing self-esteem and keeping people going, and also the inspirational quotes that sometimes mean something to us because they talk about experiences that are familiar to our experiences. So they're available on Etsy and Amazon, and also my own website as well.
Amazing.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Moving on back to Black History and Spies. Have
Yep.
you got something you'd like to ask?
Two things. The old concept of inspirational. I put out my inspirational
Yes,
words on a regular basis. That it's so important that people have something that can help them something that can permeate into their brain that is positive, that
Mm.
is that will help them to change and to be
yes.
strong and to
Well,
move. And
yeah,
this is why I love the quotation from Marcus Garvey that Bob Marley made famous: "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery." And these are some of the things that you're talking about
yes.
that can help to do that. So coming on to that, knowing about the time we've got, what do you think has been the impact on the Black communities of some of the issues that you're talking about? What I mean, we talked about some of them before, in terms of racism and discrimination and all of that. But this particular trauma, what sort of?
Well, I think it can even affect people's interpersonal relationships. So
Mm.
quite often relationships can be challenged because within the Black community there can be suspicion, bordering on. It's almost like people can have attachment problems and find it difficult to securely attach to people. So if you think of the history of, not knowing whether you were going to be, somebody in your family was going to be sold to another plantation or going to be died, some people, their attachments were affected by the constant threat, the constant stress. And then you then can get, down the generations, people who have problems securely developing an attachment with somebody. So that's where you get people who are, playing games, or they kind of like, or they're so worried that a relationship's going to come to an end that they end it first, that type of thing. So there's a whole host of difficulties in relationships that I think that stem back to the transatlantic slave trade. And some of it is the reason why sometimes even black organisations struggle to work together. Sometimes people can be fearful to say that there's another organisation encroaching on their space, when really there's so much to be done. Every organisation takes a different tact, a different way of addressing the problem. And there's really scope for collaboration rather than people, fearing one another. But I think one of the effects of intergenerational trauma is that people struggle to trust people, people struggle to develop safe and secure relationships with each other. And I think that's part of the problems that the Black community faces at times.
That is
Yep.
amazing.
And
Thank you.
actually, included, obviously, we're talking about that communities, but what about in the workplace?
Definitely
And
in
things
the
like
workplace, yeah.
and all of those things that's going on. Do you feel that this is connected to intergenerational trauma?
Definitely. I think, there's a unique trauma that faced people of African ancestry. And quite often, people enslaved got their freedom by telling on other people. So there was going to be kind of like, an uprising. And if somebody told about the uprising, they'd then get their freedom. So the seeds have been sown in the Black community to betray each other to get a little bit of privilege from white people. And that can happen even in the workplace, to say that Black people don't support each other. They're more likely to tell on each other or try and favour up to the people in power, and really not realise that their strength actually comes from their numbers. To say that if Black people did stick together, if all the workers, the domestic workers, the porters, the people at every level, in this country went on strike, this country would stop.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
can be so easily bought out, yeah, we don't actually own our power and get to use our power. And
And
some of the things that happen to Black people is because the Black community isn't using their power. That's why some of the individuals can be mistreated like that. If people try to do that in any other community, it wouldn't happen, because people would be too fearful of that community using their power against one of its members.
Wow.
interesting thing is a lot of this also has to do with the divide and rule concept that came in
Yeah,
around the time of slavery. You divide people up and
yeah,
they fight against one another, and this divide and rule continues today.
yeah,
And it really does have a major impact. However, we also know that through resilience, through determination, through courage, we can overcome that divide and rule.
mhm,
From what I'm hearing here, some of the things that you're doing is helping to actually
Bring people
people
together.
understand
yes, yeah.
and to break that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do workshops, and I do online courses. Some of them are Black-owned spaces, and some of the time it's because we need to do our healing amongst ourselves.
Privately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
privately, and sometimes share unpleasant truths. Yeah, and work through that in a safe space. And people in some of the courses that I've done have formed networks that have then continued outside of those courses.
Yes, we've got a comment here that says very true and sad at the same time. And I mean, everything that you said has definitely resonated and blown my mind. I think the linkages between business is massive, because when we speak about trauma, the hypervigilance and sometimes the dissociation of it
Yeah.
and the suspicion, it's massive. It's so deep.
and
It's so,
Mhm.
so deep.
and the funny thing is, we haven't even touched on schooling and education.
Well,
Maybe
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that as
Well, the
well.
thing is, trauma, if children are traumatized, they can't learn. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
quite often our children are facing trauma on a daily basis, just sometimes getting the bus to school. yeah, and how they're treated on the bus, the
Yeah.
bullying that can take place.
Yes.
Either our young people sometimes are not included in conversations, or they're only included in certain types of conversations. Or there's the slights or things said about people that are from your ethnic group as an attempt to put you down and pull you down, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then we expect our children to be able to learn when they're still recovering from a
The
trauma
trauma
that
of the
that
morning.
could have that could have gone on in the playground at
Yeah.
lunchtime.
Definitely. It's it's just really apt because I was delivering some training this morning around racial trauma to some teachers, educational psychologists and TAs and all teaching staff, and all of them were saying the same thing, that they notice in black children this behavior, this attitude, and the like, and a lot of them will stereotypically say it is an aggression, it's an attitude problem, that they're just bad children, it's some type of antisocial or oppositional disorder. But it's these children are coming into school traumatized.
Yeah.
Not only that, they've got the attachment issues, and then we talk about how trauma affects the brain and the development of it as well.
Yeah.
They're not going to learn.
Mm.
So leading on to the next point, because I think you touched upon healing. Is healing possible, and how can it be done? And you spoke about some of your amazing products, some of the amazing workshops and trainings that you've done. If people aren't able to get access to them for whatever reason, but they should be able to, because but how can the healing be done? What are some practicable ways in which people can start to heal?
Well, some of the ways, and one of the things that I'm quite impressed with is that I recently went to it was called a Sunday dinner that was done by TAP, which was getting people together, yeah, on a Sunday. So really to be able to connect with people who understand what you're going through, yeah. Music can be a good way of healing. Being able to have music that can pull you up when you're feeling down, or sometimes to help you feel mellow if you're feeling a bit agitated and you're feeling a bit
Yeah.
overwhelmed, that type of thing. Sometimes the food that we eat, the seasoning, those seasonings have lots of health properties. Yeah, so
Wow.
eating our traditional food and seasoning, sometimes with garlic, so with onion, all the different nutmegs, all the different spices, yeah, that have healing properties. So make sure that we continue including that in our diet. Exercise as well as nutrition. It can be just kind of maybe getting off the bus a stop earlier, that
Yeah.
you can actually walk a little bit of a distance, or parking your car a little bit of a distance from the grocery shop, so that you can do that extra walking. Because sometimes what can happen is that the impact of kind of like, it's like a cumulative effect
Yes.
of racist incidences, or kind of like slants. And it's almost like, you question yourself, am I being sensitive, or did something really happen there?
Yeah.
That type of thing. It takes up your brain space, yeah? And it
Yeah.
can then leave people feeling so tired that they then can struggle to do formal exercise sometimes, and maybe join the gym and stuff. But if you don't want to do formal exercise, there can be lots of informal ways that you can increase the movement, because what we find is that movement, it releases happy hormones in your brain,
Yeah.
which can help you feel better. Um,
Definitely.
Little things like doing lists of what you've got to do and then ticking them off, and you get a dopamine hit, kind of
Yes.
like a bit of a high moment. So, yes, I've done that. And celebrating your wins as well. It
Yeah.
can even be that you celebrate having got through a week at work. Yeah. And just kind of like say that, I'm going to have a moment to celebrate and praise myself for that. Because sometimes we're working or we're studying in quite hostile environments, and it's about how do you then balance that up with some sort of healing to keep yourself going. There can be podcasts that you can listen to, or things on YouTube that are inspirational, books to read. I've recently been reading White Fragility by,
Yes. Got that.
and also The Psychosis of Whiteness
Yeah.
by Dr. Kahindi Andrews.
Yes.
Um,
Got that. Yeah.
that's a really, really good book. And it's quite interesting. Even I mentioned one of the issues of when I experienced racism somewhere, in a mixed group, and it's quite interesting that a white woman moved the conversation quickly on to
I
something
remember
that was
that.
good. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and sometimes we need to kind of like have space that we can actually talk about our issues without being silenced, without being critiqued, without being told that we're sensitive and got a chip in our shoulder,
Yes.
and without being made to question just how it feels. Other people can have genuine feelings that it just feels uncomfortable. It feels as if, and we can sometimes we need to be able to have that space where we can just, think things through. So having opportunities where we can come together and think through our experiences is important as well.
So to process as well. So
Brilliant.
everything that you've written down, I'm going to write it down, and we're going to create a list, and we're going to pop it up.
Yep.
But the two things I wanted to say: the music and the dance, really, really important, because as you know, it's in our genes anyway. We respond. We
Yes.
are thematic creatures. So
Yeah.
that is really important, and it's something that I love, particularly music, making it and listening to it. And then I wrote down, just leading on from exercise, I wrote down ecotherapy. And another
Yes.
kind of like project that TAP did is we took young black and brown people, young black people outside of their immediate environment into nature, so they could walk, so they could talk, so they could connect, and it really helped to regulate them. It was just amazing.
Well, that links very well with a course that I've just launched today on the elements and using the elements for healing, and using a traditional African approach from Dr. Malidoma Shome, about using the elements as a basis for healing. And I'll send you information that you can circulate about that course.
I love that. Yes, we can certainly put that up. People, I don't think you realise who we're dealing with here. This is amazing. Thank you so much. So, Black History Inspires, I'm going to leave you to ask the last question before Dr. Erica needs to leave.
Well, it's not even a question. It's just to reiterate what you actually get, what how they can get onto the courses, how they can actually buy your stuff.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll put in the chat, and then also if you can also share my details as well.
We will
And also just
certainly do
mention
that.
about meditation and mindfulness. That's been something that I found quite powerful, and a number of other people have found learning those skills quite powerful. Just to be able to take a break from the situation. If you can't get yourself out of a difficult situation, you can take your mind out of the situation into a safe place where you can then have a pause, well, to think, and then you may respond to the situation rather than to react to the situation. And a response is something that can perhaps help the situation, as opposed to reacting out of anger or out of hurt feelings, which can often contribute to even more problems.
There you go.
And can also say that Dr. Stephen Bond is actually on. He's one of our great historians from the United States. He's a brilliant historian, and he always supports. And he said hello to yourself.
Thank you. Hello.
Yes, and to us.
Thank you so much.
Well, Dr. Stephen Bond, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. So I guess what we'll do is we will share all of your information far and wide as much as we can. I'm hoping to be on one of your courses soon. And just, thank you so much for joining us. It's been amazing. It's just gems upon gems upon gems, but this is what we need. This is where the healing starts, and this is why we created the channel. If there's anything else that you want to end with, but if not, then
to end with that, we can co-create our future. Sometimes we can't do much about what's happened to us, but what we can do is something about what we do with it for the future. And sometimes we need to rest, renew, restore ourselves, that we can go forward, and we can have a great future, because we've also had a great past in some ways.
Amazing. Okay. I'm going to put that in the chat. We can co-create our future. I love that. Thank you so much, then.
Thank you.
We will definitely speak to you soon. I will see you at some more events. We've got Kwanzaa coming up and a few other things like that. So have a brilliant evening. Continue to be phenomenal and indomitable, and all of the words that describe you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Wow.
Bye.
Amazing. So I'm just trying to see here. Do you know how to leave? Because I
I
don't know how
don't. I
to.
think what I may do is I'll just close it down and that may make it leave. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye. So, people, how was that? How was that? Can we have some emojis up the screen, some love up the screen? Can we have some comments? Because, yeah, man, that was a masterclass, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Just a masterclass.
And she does give lots of good masterclasses.
She does. She does.
I actually was there. I was assisting her when she put on her first ever course in Manchester. Because she to my classes, Black History, and that's how we met. And I helped her, or she asked for some help from me, and so I was there, and I was just amazed at some of the things she was coming out with.
Listen.
That we're talking about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, that's how I met her. I met her when TAP put on our first mental health event, and we invited her to come and speak at that event. I think she just got back from America. She'd done a Winston Churchill Fellowship scholarship, and she'd visited the Black Association of Psychologists in America and became very much steeped in African-centered clinical psychology, and then brought it back and then spoke about that at the event. And we were like, what? And people were like, what? And then, I think I don't think she'd be mad at me if I was to say that she has said it was that event that kind of like sparked and spurred. And I was like, no. So yeah, it just feels very. We've always worked together, but just look how. I'm lost for words. I think she's amazing. Oh. Anyway, so moving on, people. Is there anything that anybody wants to ask about what we've been discussing? Anything you want to kind of like stick a pin in? Because pretty much we've had it there. We've had the masterclass. I know we've got some further discussions that Black History Inspires wants to bring into the last 20 minutes or so of the live. So yeah, go through.
Okay, yeah. One of the things I mean, following on from what we've just heard, you know, once you've had a chance to, well, you probably will have to take some time to think about that, because whenever she speaks, it takes me a while to, you know, get it into my head. But then I find something that is really important that she said that I could put into practice. So here's the thing. What can we do in our daily lives to help to remove intergenerational trauma? What can we individually, better still, what can you as an individual do to help to remove? It may be one thing, and sometimes it only takes one thing to start the ball rolling. Or it may be a few things.
For me, I would say it's definitely the meditation and mindfulness practices. When I remember I do some yoga, that helps me to get back into my body in terms of that body-based somatic type of regulation. A big one for me is clearly music, and I've also written down Black Joy, and that was something that was really illustrated to me when she was talking about the Sunday dinners, when the community came together and ate and laughed together, but also when we did the hiking with the young Black people and we just laughed from start to finish. That was so healing. So those are my kind of like key areas of how I seek to remove it.
It's funny, but mine is basically writing, particularly
writing
and
poetry.
My other thing, as you know, is just educating other people, sharing my knowledge with others.
Yes, I completely agree. I love that.
Anyone else?
Anyone else, if you can put some stuff in the comments as to what you do daily in your lives to remove intergenerational trauma. We've got loads of emojis. Somebody's laughing for some reason. Why are we being laughed at?
Well, whilst people are thinking, the next one is, what support do we need to make it a reality?
Well, Dr. McInnes has just put the support in. The support we need to make it a reality is access the course here.
Yeah.
So we're going to put the links onto the channel anyway. But let me see if I can pin this. If people have got pens and paper, then they can write it down, or they can write it in the comments. They can copy it, and then once they come off the live, they can paste it into their web browser, and it will come up, and they can access the course that way as well. So what support do we need to make it a reality? I mean, for me, some of the conversations I was having this morning was around more awareness around racial trauma, anti-black racism or Afrophobia, Afrophobia, Afro-skepticism, so many names to describe it now, but it's essentially anti-black racism. It's about raising that awareness. It's about ensuring that, those people in power, or those people who are kind of like at the top of the food chain, the hierarchy, so to speak, but even our teachers and our police officers and our clinicians and our doctors understand about the impacts of IGT, intergenerational trauma, and indeed trauma-informed practice. So that's a big one for me.
Oh, right. Okay. I believe Dr. McInnes has put a website.
Amazing. So we can pin this as well. So as you can see, people, remember you can copy and paste, or I'm hoping you've got your pens and your papers and you can write this down. If not, then we will add it onto the channel. We will share it on Black History Inspires channel as well as this channel as well, so you can get access to that. Have you got anything else you want to ask?
Yes, I'm just noticing we've still got a bit of time, haven't we?
Yeah.
This one should take a bit more time because
talk on this.
How can we help young people to understand intergenerational trauma?
Well, before we answer that, I'm going to put it to the folks in the comments. What do you think would be part of the answer? How can we help young people to understand IGT, intergenerational trauma? Any ideas, people? And whilst you're writing, I'm just going to say, case in point, this channel.
Yep.
And the work that we've been doing for 3 years now. 3 years in August it was. My God.
Yep. Years.
We're a dedicated bunch, aren't we?
Yes. Yes, we've got a few. Obviously, Dr. Erica McInnes courses and cards and books and all that also would be able, because they're understandable for young people.
Really understandable.
It's not just for adults. Yeah.
And then we've got a cool comment here from Mr. SJD280. Were you going to read that?
Go ahead.
Keep teaching the youth their history so they know that our history doesn't start with slavery.
That is very important. I think something Dr. McInnes said is that she talked about the fact that we were once great. Yeah, it's not that we have just come out of caves and jungles and just appeared as savages, which is what certain people would like to believe. But we were once great, going back thousands and thousands of years. Yeah. The small blip that we've had, which is the last 500 years, is nothing compared to the pre 5,000 years.
I love that. It's nothing compared to the previous 5,000 years.
It's nothing compared. When I say nothing, I mean there is intergenerational trauma. There's the slavery. There's all the racism and all of that. But what I'm saying is that we need to be aware that we cannot allow that to destroy that 5,000 years of history that we've had before.
Yeah, and even more than that, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. For me, before I got into mental health and racial trauma, I did youth work, and I still am a youth worker, professional youth and community worker, and it's something that I've been doing for about 20 years now. Absolutely love it. Similar to yourself, similar to what Dr. Erica was saying, around service, around giving back, around sharing knowledge, around if you know something, then, share it with other people. That's always been my mantra. And it's something that, I've been inspired by from yourself and from other people as well. And I just feel like if you've got it, then give it, if that makes sense. It's a gift, so share it. For me, how we can help young people to understand IGT is essentially just talking about it and almost like normalizing it, to say that trauma is real, it happens, and it happens to everybody. Everybody's got a different understanding of how trauma affects them, and everybody's got a different individual experience of trauma. So when I was delivering my workshop training this morning, we were talking about, hello Luna, thank you for joining. We were talking about clearly intergenerational epigenetic trauma. We were talking about ancestral trauma, but we were also talking about witnessing trauma and how a lot of young people become re-traumatized by witnessing trauma that they see. So second and third party or vicarious community trauma. And then we talk about the trauma that we might see in the news, on the media, social media in particular, the trauma of the last 3 years, ago, May 2020, when, you know, we had the death of George Floyd and then the riots across the world. That trauma, the trauma that's happening right now in the world, and what young people are witnessing and how they respond to that. So, you know, a lot of people will say, well, it's not happening in the UK, so why is it affecting you? That is one of the most damaging statements that you can make, particularly when it comes to racial trauma, when people are saying the racism in the USA is completely different to the racism here. It's got nothing to do with us. What that does is it completely shears away people's identities, experiences, understandings, and their truths. And every time that you say to a black person, oh, you're playing the race card, or you've got a chip on your shoulder, or it's not that bad, and you start getting into that racial gaslighting, I call it psychic anguish. It's exactly what Dr. McInnes was talking about, in the fact that your brain power is taken up, your brain space is taken up with trying to understand why you're being treated like this and your personal experience of said trauma. So for me, it's about understanding that it's normal, that it's okay if you are hurt, and that it's wrong that you've been hurt, that you are not a victim, and that you can work through it to become a victor. But the way in which to do that is to almost face it. Sometimes we are mirrors for each other, and we have to face it, don't we? We have to look in the mirror and say, okay, this is what's happened, this is what I'm going through, and be open to exploring it in a safe space where you can regulate and start to work through that trauma, because a lot of the trauma is held in our bodies. A lot of people know that, a lot of people don't know that, but it literally is. That's why dance and music is really important, as well as exercise and movement. I feel like I'm just chatting, but this is my bag, innit? The other ways in which I try and help young people to understand intergenerational trauma or trauma is to get them to recognize and understand how their brains work, how their bodies work. So when Dr. McInnes was talking about the different chemicals, the different hormones, the different bodily and physiological reactions, then yeah, it's helping young people to understand that and the reasons why it happens. So when we talk about the difference between response and react, the flip your lid model, which is a really cool model by a guy called Dan Siegel, and the way in which our brains go offline if we're in a fight or flight response, young people understanding that, recognizing that trauma may not always happen straight away in the moment. It can come back a day, a month, a year later, and it's still trauma. You know, so all of those things there, those are the things that I do. Mr. SJD280, counselling is another great tool, which we do not speak enough about. Therapy has a very important role to play. Speak the ting, let me pin this comment. Speak the ting. All of the practical solutions that Dr. McInnes were talking about are types of therapy. But what I will say, clinical intervention, I can't even think of the word. We can't detract from how important it is, clinical intervention, because if you don't understand your brain, and if you don't understand what's going on and why it's going on, then that in itself can re-traumatize you. But then if you end up speaking to a counsellor, a clinician, doing some type of one-to-one therapeutic intervention work, that in itself is the liberation, and that can start to free your mind, literally. So yeah, thank you, Waxy Chief, for joining.
Okay. Interesting. Whilst you were talking, I was just thinking about just written something down, and I'm gonna make this a little bit. I'm gonna put some this.
Go for it.
And basically, I've just put intergenerational trauma. It restricts our possibilities, abilities, and sense of humanity.
It does.
Because especially that last bit, sense of humanity, it might, I'm not saying it does, but it might explain a lot of what we call the black and black violence that's going on around the world at the moment. Not just in America, not just in Britain, not just in South Africa, but it's going on a lot. I don't like the term black and black.
Neither do I, but it is something that we need to talk about.
There is a large percentage of black people who are killing black people.
And why is that?
There is also a large percentage of white people who are killing white people.
And why is that?
We're talking about this, and I'm wondering whether intergenerational trauma and the issues of racism and all the other things that are going on, that's, getting into your brain and whatever, would that have something to do with what's going on?
I completely think it is. I think some of the stuff that I was looking into, we were talking about today, is there's a guy called Paulo Freire who is a Brazilian educationalist, and he did some amazing work around pedagogy of the oppressed, and speaking about, he's got a book called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and he speaks about how the dehumanization of people can lead them to certain behaviors, which means that they don't self-actualize. That's just essentially it. So if you are so oppressed, or if you are dehumanized to the point where you feel like you can't raise above your position, you can't self-actualize, you can't learn and then give your gifts on all of those things and do the things that normal people do, then yeah, we are stronger than we believe. Thank you. What a lovely comment. Thank you. So dehumanization is a massive thing, but we have to remember that it's been rooted in history. The Constitution, the 3/5 of a human being, the laws, the ways in which we've been treated by the state, all of those. Yeah.
All of those things, because in humanity, the indignity, the basically saying that you're not really human, you're just a part human.
Yeah.
That can, if you were to tell somebody day in, day out, the question is, what would their response be in terms of humanity? And these are some of the things. So what you've talked about there, that particular book, you'll have to send me the details about that. I wouldn't mind.
Let me pop it in the comments.
Getting a little bit of that word, what was
pedagogy.
That? Pedagogy.
So it's, pedagogy is, I think it means the way in which society is set up. I know that Luna, if she's still listening, will be able to break it down. The difference between pedagogic, actually no, it's hegemony, which is the way society is set up, whereas pedagogy is around how we understand each other, and I think how we, I think that's the difference. Don't quote me, but let me put his details. Collection of, thank you, Luke. Listen, that's why Luna's the one. Thank you. So his name is Paulo. I hope I've got that right. So again, you can Google him and find out some of his work. Like an education, pedagogy, education. So when they talk about informal and formal education and the different pedagogies around that, definitely pedagogy of Black history. Thank you so much. You see, this is how we learn, and I ain't even going to make it out like, oh yeah, I knew that. I ain't got that ego. Thank you. Thank you so much. There was something I was going to say. Oh, this comment here. We have some great organisations, such as Manhood Academy, and Davis, who runs it, is amazing. I've done some amazing work with him, and 100 Black Men, which mentor and support our young men and boys. We certainly do. So those kind of like grassroots, community-based organisations, we need to be working with them.
Can I also mention an absolutely amazing guy? He's called Andrew Muhammad.
Oh, yes.
Work, apart from on Tuesday evenings with his various hidden truths.
Oh, I'm going to be in that tomorrow.
There are a lot of things that he's doing with the young people in schools. He's been going into schools, he's been getting them awards, he's been getting them involved in stuff. So what I'm saying, yes, you're right. There are a lot of really great organizations. But what I find is many of those organizations are in the South, in Britain, and there aren't that many up north. And again, the question is there a way to actually spread that love around the whole country rather than just
I mean, all we can do is continue to work and connect with each other and to network, and I think that's how we start to spread the love and spread the information. Is the more people are talking about it, the more people know about it, then, you know, strength by strength of numbers, one would hope that the more that type of work would start to pop up in the places that we need it.
So let me ask my final question in the next 5 minutes, see what people come up with. What one thing can you take away from this evening's session? One thing. Some people might have more than one.
Oh,
but
wow. Can I just say,
one thing that you can take away from this evening's session?
Okay. Before we answer that, can I just say big up, zup to MEEP schools who've joined, making education a priority.
Right.
They are the umbrella education for our alternative and Saturday schools in Manchester, and they do a absolutely brilliant job. People follow them. When we talk about some of the solutions, MEEP are one of the solutions, so thank you. Luna's put in some amazing books that people can look at. Staying Power by Peter Fryer, yeah, we've spoken about that one before.
Yes. I've read about Black history in this country.
Ubuntu, I am what I am because of who you are. So is that what you're taking away from this evening, Mr. Eshdedu 280? Is that the teaching? Is that the learning? What one thing are we taking away from this evening? I'm just trying to think. Can I say 20? I can't think of one.
If you take 20,
I can't take away one thing. You know what? Probably the anti-fragile stuff. I'm going to look more into that. I love what Dr. McInnes was talking about to be flexible is to break, to be hard is to break, but to be anti-fragile is to be able to mitigate. Yeah, I love that. So I'm probably going to look into the work of Nicholas Taleb around that. That's one thing I'm taking away. What about yourself?
Again, even though I've asked the question, one thing, you know, there could be a few.
Yeah.
I like this Nicholas Taleb as well. I would checking that out. But Paulo Freire?
Yeah, Paulo Freire.
That's something I'd really like to get my head around.
Yeah.
Also, obviously, the other important thing that I'll definitely take away is just sitting here and listening to Dr. Erica McInnes talk about these things and just read them off like that, you know, and the work that she's doing. And also, I know that we've got Dr. Stephen Bond on here as well, and that he's doing in America. I mean, there are some fascinating people around. There are also some daring people around. Like Kean Andrews.
I went to his talk when he launched the Psychosis of Whiteness, and oh my gosh, yeah.
And we need to, and also we need to support Dr. Professor Akin.
Yeah, I was in one of his talks as well. The way they done him.
Yes, I know. I was actually hoping to go onto that course and do a piece of research with him because he has.
What they did.
And unfortunately, they've gotten rid of the course.
Yes. We've got a comment here from Luna saying, Mr. Black History Inspires, Mr. Sweeney, if you like the pedagogy of the oppressed, check out the work around theatre of the oppressed as well. Definitely, I've done some work around that in Manchester, and it's next levels. It's so good.
What series?
Theatre of the Oppressed.
Oh, Theatre of the Oppressed.
Yeah, it's based on the work, but it's using drama. So we've got here, yes, but it's also something that I have learned from Brother Andrew Mohammed. I will tune in tomorrow. Yes, see you there tomorrow. We need to be anti-fragile for when they come for us. Wow, that's daring, because that's it. listen, that's getting pinned. Rosita's saying that all of the conversations. So you can't take away one thing, you're taking all of the conversations. All right.
That is what I want people to say, that they're taking everything away.
All right, there it is.
I deliberately said one thing to get people thinking.
Listen, we've also got a comment here. We need to build our own educational institutions as well as using others. So we know we've got making education a priority in this group, in the live, sorry. And like I said, people, please follow their work and support their work. But we've also got my brother from TAP is creating a alternative school called Ubuntu School, which he's been talking about for years, and it's finally starting to happen with support from people like Meep and other people within the community and other businesses and organisations. So exactly that, we are starting the building work, Dr. Erica McInnes.
There we are. There we are. Yeah. Wonderful.
Amazing.
Yes, and look at the time.
9 o'clock on the dot. We did well, didn't we?
Wow. Yes.
We did well. So, yeah, I guess I ain't got nothing to say, man. I'm just...
You're just buzzing. Oh, we do have something to say.
Go on.
We were thinking...
yes.
whether this is going to happen about next week.
Yeah, next week. Yes.
Doing this on Zoom.
Are we gonna go for it?
I don't know.
I think we should.
What do you think?
I think we should. I think we should go on Zoom. I think we were going to have a recap of the last year. We were going to talk about our favourite moments. We're going to hopefully meet some of the folks who have been in the lives over the past year face to face, just to smile and wave and to say, hey, family, why not? So let's do it.
And you don't have to show your face if you don't want to, but we'd love to hear your voice.
Yeah.
Because we're not hearing voices, we're not seeing faces. It'd be great to hear people's voices.
Amazing. So people...
And I'll also do a short quiz also.
Oh, yeah. Can we do a quiz again? Yeah. I think I sent out vouchers last year. Go on then. Let's do it. Right. So people, next Monday, we're going to have a Zoom. So this is what is going to happen.
Oh.
Go on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. No, I thought something else came to mind.
You double booked then, didn't you? Stop it.
I thought I was going to be away next Monday. No, it's not. It's in January. I'll be away, but I'll still come on the session from my hotel room.
Oh, yes, you did say that. So next week we're going to have a Zoom. In between now and then, we're going to put up all of the details of the work of Dr. Erica McInnes and African-centered clinical psychologist, and we're also going to put up the details of the Zoom so people can join. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it. And then clearly the week after that will be Christmas Day. Man not celebrate Christmas like that, but still it's a day for me to just chill out and go to somebody's house and eat their food. Listen. Listen. So that's what we're going to do.
It's not mine, is it?
I don't know yet. We'll see.
Okay. Right.
We'll see. So people, can we have some final comments? We can have some emojis. We can have some love up the screen. But yeah, all are invited if anyone needs it.
Yep. Anyone along. But as I said, we will have to send out that link at some point.
Oh, you know what? Luna's different, you know. Every Christmas for the past couple of Christmases, Luna's been having an open Christmas at her home. And
which is
in Newham in London. So anybody in Newham in London who don't want to cook Christmas Day and want to be around some lit energy.
What if I'm not in Newham and I live in Manchester?
Then you're not getting no food. You're not getting no food. Thank you for inviting me, Dr. McInnes is saying.
I can drive.
If you want to drive, go for it. But let me tell you, a perfect host, lovely human being, wonderful friend, phenomenal woman. Salute you, Luna. Thank you so much for that. Amazing. Oh, I'm feeling emotional now.
Yeah.
And Zoom is a great thing. It certainly is. I can't wait for this quiz. You know I'm winning. Because last year I was so competitive and I lost. Anyway. I guess we'll see you next week, people.
You've got me coughing now.
You know what? I started coughing myself. I'm so scared.
Yep.
Be safe,
Anyway,
people. Continue to heal. We got this.
the most important thing is be
you. I love it.
and if you can't be you, just
be kind. See you later.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Bye.